Coming up next on Tech News Today, Intel is acquiring Movidius in its pursuit of 50 billion connected devices by 2020. Also, Megan yammers on about Yammer. Twitter might be about to strategize a sale of the company, and how Microsoft is tackling neurodiversity. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1592, recorded Tuesday, September 6th, 2016. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage process into the 21st century with a fast, easy, and completely online process. Check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT.
And by Grasshopper. Stay connected and run your business from your mobile phone with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, visit trygrasshopper.com/twit. Welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we talk about all the technology news that matters. We are the Taylor Swift and Katy Perry of tech news.
Oh, I'm so Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
I'm Taylor Swift. That's all I know, because I don't know any of the words to Katy Perry song. But I do to Taylor Swift. What did I just say that out loud for?
I don't know.
Oh, God.
I'm Megan Morrone.
I'm Jason Howell. Definitely not Taylor Swift. Definitely Katy Perry. I don't know what the better of the two options is.
I don't know. That is the question of our times.
Apparently,
really.
no. In fact, that's the question of the day. Email TNT@twit.tv and tell us.
Team Katy or
who,
Team Taylor?
Yes, we need to know. This is really important stuff. And did you notice our kind of new set? It's like our new set changed a little bit. We got a different background. I think we're still working on it. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of people in here minutes ago. Very, kind of whisking all around, all over the place, moving things suddenly. So don't consider this finalized, but very soon, very
We're working
final.
on it. If you have opinions, you can email them to us, tnt@twit.tv.
Yes,
we'll take
about the set or our musical choices in life. Mm-hmm. All right, let's do this.
Intel's RealSense camera technology is about to get smarter, or at least see better. The Wall Street Journal reports that Intel is buying Movidius, an Irish mobile vision process company. Currently, Movidius has been the eyes of robots, drones, VR headsets, and more. The acquisition also includes the algorithms tuned for deep learning, depth processing, navigation and mapping, and natural interactions. The Wall Street Journal says terms of the deal were not disclosed, but the Irish Times calls it a multi-million euro deal. So Intel does not want to miss out again. They're moving forward.
Well, I mean, they've got a lot of things happening in this particular space. We heard all about them a couple of weeks ago with their developer conference, the developer forum. Intel's shooting for 50 billion connected devices by 2020. Just think about that. And so this, they say, combined with RealSense, could just make a very autonomous image recognition system, working on low power, that sort of stuff. A large part of what Movidius was working on is doing this image recognition that normally, we think of, these huge servers up in the cloud having to, crunch data and understand the difference between this object versus that object, and not just text, like people versus dogs and all this kind of stuff that you see Google Photos doing, for example. You think of that happening in the cloud, and a lot of what Movidius has been doing has been kind of miniaturizing that and bringing it in a lower power ways onto a device. And so that works for Intel's kind of plans for their hardware efforts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not a new company. They've been around for a decade. They've worked with Lenovo, DJI, a few other big companies. So yeah, the Movidius, the better to see you with, my dear.
VPU, by the way, that's what they call it, vision processing units. And that's the thing that they've kind of integrated with DJI for their Phantom drone in their work there, subject tracking, that sort of stuff. Allows for tracking in that regard, also navigation, mapping, all in power efficient ways. And then the other thing that this has been really kind of critical for has been Project Tango with Google. Google's had kind of an ongoing relationship with them. Of course, the consumer Project Tango device is the Lenovo Fab 2 Pro, supposed to be out this summer. Is summer officially over yet?
No, a couple weeks, fall begins.
Cool. So it's going to release in the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, they're liars. Yeah. And it would have this technology baked into it. I'm looking forward to that phone, to be honest. We have emerged from the post-auction hangover that was the Yahoo sale, and that lasted by the way, a very long time. We talked about it quite a bit. Turns out we need another major tech company to follow as it seeks to put itself up for sale. And that company this time could be Twitter. Kurt Wagner at Recode posted today that the company's board of directors is meeting this Thursday to discuss the options for Twitter if it were to consider a sale. The Twitter buyout would cost more than $18 billion, and that right there is going to definitely limit options for suitors if this were to happen. This could also just be a board of directors meeting. You know, they've even said, yeah, well, yes, of course we would consider this. As you know, as the board, like, it's our fiduciary responsibility to consider options, and this would be one option. But you know, who knows how seriously they're taking that at this early stage.
How sad is it for Twitter that, like, Ev Williams, who's the founder, former CEO before Dick Costolo, he was in an interview said Twitter should consider the right options, and everyone just took that as, oh, they're going to sell, and then their stock went up.
Yeah, and that's not the first time, actually. That could be a big reason why this meeting is happening, at least to a certain degree, right? That happened, and the stock blew up. There were acquisition rumors. I think it was last month with Steve Ballmer, Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal Al-Saad. They together already own around a 9% stake in the company, and there was the rumor floated that they were considering a buyout. And when that happened, 9% jump in stock. So obviously the people who are invested in Twitter like this idea. So at a certain point, I mean, you know, I have to imagine they have to cut their losses and just kind of like bite the bullet.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like, Twitter has so much influence on the media, on the you know, the election, just world events. It feels like it is so, it has so much force in the world, but then people are like, it's worth nothing. Who'd buy that? You know, so I mean, one of their ideas is they'll take them, they won't be public, they'll be private. So they'll be able to, like, carry on. Every decision they make isn't just constantly scrutinized by everyone. That's what a lot of companies do. So,
yeah. So, you know, there was last year's staff reduction. They had an 8% staff reduction. I think it was this time last year. So the rumors right now tied to this are that could be happening again. Actually, a lot of employees are kind of worried from what this article was saying that might actually happen very soon. They're also considering selling off some of their kind of sub-properties. The MoPub, which was an ad inventory acquisition that they made back in 2013. Vine, of course, for the really short video clips and everything that seemed to really, you know, do well initially, and then now you just don't hear anything about Vine anymore. Fabric, which is a mobile development platform that they showed off in 2014. I don't know how much that sweetens the deal for a potential buyer. And like, when I look at it, I don't think of it as Twitter not being worth anything. In my head, Twitter's worth a lot, but people just don't know how you tackle the challenges of Twitter, you know, and Twitter's having a hard time presenting a really great, meaningful way to tackle those challenges and make money and turn around, you know, the challenges of discrimination and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of, you know, in some ways it's kind of like Yahoo in that regard. You know, it's almost like the problems are so surmountable, coupled with the cost, that really you end up with this small pool of potential investors, and who knows what comes out of that.
I mean, one source said there might be like an Alphabet media spinoff. That was one potential thing, and they would get sold to Alphabet, to Google, and just be part of their media spinoff. I don't know. That was just one source said that. We're only guessing now.
Yeah.
And speaking of sources and rumors, are you tired of hearing about iPhone 7 rumors? Yes? No? Yes? Well, in less than 24 hours, we will know if everything we already think we know is true or not. KGI's Ming-Chi Kuo dropped another rumor bomb over the weekend. It includes color options. There will be 5. And spoiler alert, one of them will not be blue, as I was hoping. Rose gold, gold, and silver will remain, but space gray will be replaced by dark black. And there will also be a new glossy model called Piano Black.
AKA fingerprint magnet.
Yes. Supply on the Piano Black might be limited at first. Kuo also says Apple will announce a new Bluetooth-like communication chip. and launch fancy Bluetooth headphones. The earbuds, they have been called AirPods in the rumor. They're also so tiny you would lose them faster than you lost your Apple Pencil, which I lost in about 5 minutes. Some people are wondering if Bluetooth-like means they'll be using some version of AirPlay. Quo called them high-end, but did not mention pricing. The dual-lens camera system we've told you about will include a wide-angle camera and a telephoto camera, both with 12-megapixel sensors. We also think the phone will have IPX7 water resistance. That's like the Apple Watch, but like the Apple Watch, they probably won't advertise this, so you just got to take your chances and hope for the best. So, yeah, and did I mention probably no headphone jack?
Yeah, it sounds like that's pretty likely at this point. No headphone jack. And from what this was saying, in favor of a new sensor to help. Like when I was reading this, I was like, so this was the alternative. You either have the headphone jack that you're used to having, or you have no headphone jack, and that allows us to improve 3D touch. Is 3D touch something you use very often?
No. But maybe I would if it was improved.
Maybe if it was better, if it had an extra sensor in there that just made it amazing. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played with 3D touch personally. Hope to one of these days. One of these days we'll do the trade. And yeah, so it also pointed out the difference between what you have as display technology on the iPhone now versus the True Tone display on the iPad Pro. You spend some time with the iPad Pro. Greg, I know you spend a lot of time with the iPad Pro. Is the display quality that much different? Like, does it look that nicer between the iPad Pro and, over what you're used to with the iPhone?
Like the iPhone over the iPhone, yes.
Yeah.
And even over like the iPad Air, yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so maybe
better.
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. So tomorrow, 10 a.m. is when they will announce, and we'll be sitting in this, not here in this set, but that other set way over there with Leo and Andy Anatko. And I must stay late after the show. You'll still be here doing All About Android, but I'm going to make bingo cards to fill out, because Leo always talks like, well, what's on your bingo card? And I said, should we make actual bingo cards?
Yes, good idea.
So for all the stuff that we think, so playing along at home, and you can play along too at home. Make your own bingo card and play along with us. And whatever they announce, you just shout bingo, and you'll win absolutely nothing at all except my appreciation.
Yeah, and you'll get to play a fun game while they do the announcement instead of just watch it.
Right.
Where are the bingo cards going to be? Like people can just print them out?
Yeah,
You're going to tweet it out or something?
I'll tweet it out.
Okay.
I haven't planned it. After this.
I don't know. I got as far as bingo cards, okay?
I don't know. There must be a bingo. I don't know. There must be a bingo card template on the internet.
There must be a bingo card repository somewhere on the internet.
And then
a site dedicated to different bingo
in.
cards.
Yes.
Yes, there must be. Stay tuned to Megan's Twitter account at Megan Morrone, and you too will be able to play Apple event bingo. TechCrunch had reported in May that Microsoft once wanted to purchase Slack for $8 billion before bailing on that plan to work on its own solution integrated with Skype. Well, here we go. Skype Teams is about to be Microsoft's version of group messaging for Teams. It's going to have a lot of familiarities. Now, this is kind of an exclusive. This is a leak, so it's not officially released at this point. We don't know exactly when this is going to launch, but sometime, it's far along enough in development that we know a lot of things about it. It's going to have channels similar to Skype for different groups or discussion topics. Direct messaging, of course, video calls in the channels and privately, of course, because this is a Skype product, and Skype's benefit, I suppose, over maybe Slack would be the video aspect, the video call aspect.
You can do video calls in Slack now too.
But Skype's been doing it for longer. So there. I have to imagine they're going to talk that up a little bit. Online meeting scheduling, threaded conversations, which Slack does not have. Similar to Facebook, or discuss comments. Office 365 integration, also Slack does not have that, and is planned to launch for Office 365 users at first. So that's probably going to be a big part of this kind of collaboration, Office 365, into this group messaging thing. Are we going to jump ship? Because we use Slack for this show.
We use Slack for this show, and it makes us so productive, doesn't it?
Yeah, all of those Jiffies or Giphies, whatever you want to say, all those little animations of random words that come up in conversation. Let me tell you, it keeps us on track and on point.
I have one question. What about Yammer? Where's the love for Yammer? Yammer?
What is Yammer?
Yammer was the
There you go.
Microsoft like tool that was for collaborate. It was like
Yeah.
it was the Office Twitter or the Office like chat. It was Yammer. Like no one ever used it because the reason people use Slack is because it's cool and it's very hard, aside from Xbox, for Microsoft to make anything that anyone considers cool. So, yeah.
Ouch.
But productivity is really important.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I do think for the enterprise, that's going to become more and more important. I heard a report on NPR about this today, just like everyone always says, like, oh, Facebook is ruining our productivity. And they have nothing that proves that. But what they say is that, okay, productivity means more output, and more output means a company gets more money, and more money means you get a raise, and you get a raise means your standard of living is higher. And if that slows down, that means like our standard of living doesn't get higher. And every like decade, I guess, or every generation until now, our standard of living has doubled. And so this is serious. And what they say is that there hasn't been any real innovation like electricity that makes employees more productive. Like all the apps and smartphones, like this is not making us any more productive. They think like
Keeps us busier,
yeah,
but I don't know if we're more productive.
And like nothing since the late 90s has made workers more productive. So I do think this is going to become important. But I don't know if it's Slack Teams. What's it called? Skype
Teams. Yeah.
Skype Teams is going to do it.
Skype Teams versus Slack. Just from a naming standpoint.
Right, I know.
It's 2 words versus 1. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a simpler option. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I understand where you're coming from, though. I would venture to say, though, that the smartphone is one of those, like, okay, maybe smartphone to electricity, not quite the same thing, but that has come along and really redefined a lot of things. But I think what you're saying there is like, has that made us any more productive necessarily?
Right. It's redefined.
Keeps us pretty busy though. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's a good or a bad thing, but it does.
It redefines the way we work. Like
Yeah,
we
the
can
way we
work
spend our
at
time.
home, we can work at the park.
For sure.
You know, we can work in the bathroom. I don't do that, but we could.
Somebody does.
But does it make us more productive? I don't know, because we're also Snapchatting and Twittering and
Yeah.
Facebooking and chatting and doing everything. So I don't know.
Yeah. And one final thing, because we talked a little bit about Giphy/Jiffy, depending on how you pronounce it. They're going to replace that with the fun picker for things like emojis and GIFs and memes. So you're still going to have your fun in the tool, and they're going to call it that. That's all I got.
Okay. I just say show some love for Yammer.
I had no idea you were such a Yammer fan.
That could be my decade. We're doing freelance for Microsoft.
You spent a lot of time using Yammer.
I spent a lot of time not using Yammer, but being told to use Yammer. Well, there are a few things in the world that I abhor more than for-profit colleges. If you would like to change my mind on that, if you're pro for-profit colleges, I'm willing to hear your argument at megan@twit.tv. But today I'm not mourning the loss of ITT Tech, the for-profit chain of colleges that officially shuts down as of today. Now, if you're anywhere near my age, you probably remember the promises of those ITT Tech commercials, promises that were rarely delivered. I do feel bad for the 8,000 employees and the 40,000 students at the 130 locations in 39 states. Now, students will have federal loan debt wiped and be given the option of restarting their education somewhere new. ITT Tech has been accused of fraud and deceptive practices, of charging outrageous sums for tuition and failing to provide valuable education to their often afterwards debt-ridden students.
I remember these commercials. They were very, very prevalent in Boise, Idaho when I was growing up. And I remember watching them and going, oh, yeah, I could totally do CAD. This is a really great idea. Of course, I didn't understand kind of the mechanics of the for-profit institution behind the scenes. And when I read this, man, I just think of the students who are enrolled and the people who have the jobs here, but especially the students, because when I was like reading these articles and you go down into the comments, so many of the comments are people who like, graduating in like 5 days. They're like, wait a minute, no, I was supposed to graduate like at the end of September, and now that's not happening. I mean, they're gutted. They spend all this time. So they have some options. They can roll over those credits to a different university if the university will accept those credits. That's always the challenge there. Now, you mentioned that they're getting their federal loan debt completely wiped. I hadn't read that that was definitely happening. I read that that was an option that you have to apply for, and it may or may not happen.
And what I read was that if you want to transfer your credits, then you can't get your debt wiped. Like you have to
which
choose
that makes
one
sense.
of the
That
other.
that
Like
kind of makes sense.
If you transfer your credits, you can't. So
Yeah.
they have the option to get
Right.
that. So thanks for pointing that out.
But that's just really got to suck. 45,000 students just like, okay, well, what do we do now? But
I mean, I hate for-profit colleges because I think it gives all education a bad name. I mean, you hear people talking about like, oh, if you go to college, you're going to be saddled with debt for the rest of your life. And it's true. College is expensive. But I think that education is important. And I think that these for-profit colleges that really do saddle you with debt are just besmirching the names of other colleges that, like community colleges, that where you really have a really good chance of being able to pay off that debt after you go to school because you have an education. So that's what's frustrating to me.
Very frustrating. So there you go, ITT Tech. And we kind of saw the tea leaves over the past couple of weeks. I feel like it's been bubbling up. So can't we come back from camping and this is what happens when you go away camping, people. ITT Tech goes out of business. It's just a name that I've had in my brain for as long as I can remember. Up next, we'll talk about a different type of diversity altogether and how Microsoft is welcoming those on the autistic spectrum into its workplace. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. They are the sponsor of this episode. I've done the whole mortgage process. I know what it's like to have to find all that paperwork and dig it up. And, you know, you're working towards a goal, and that goal is awesome to have your home, but getting there can be a little bit of a challenge, to say the least, actually. Rocket Mortgage brings the mortgage approval process into the 21st century. It makes it a little bit easier for you. It's fast, powerful, and completely online. Rocket Mortgage has taken all the complicated, time-consuming parts of applying for a mortgage out of the equation. So if you hate, like I do, searching through stacks of old paperworks, old files, all that kind of stuff to find what you need, well, with Rocket Mortgage, you're not going to have to do that as much. It's all electronic. You can easily share your bank statements and pay stubs at the touch of a button. That'll help you get approved in minutes for a custom mortgage solution that's been tailored to your unique financial situation. And even better, with Rocket Mortgage, you can do all of this on your phone or your tablet. It's a quick online process that you can manage from the convenience of your couch. So if you're looking to refinance your mortgage or buy a home, you'll want to check out Rocket Mortgage today at quickenloans.com/TNT. That's quickenloans.com/TNT. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, and MLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support. So obviously, Megan and I talk a lot about cultural diversity in the workplace, particularly as that relates to the tech industry. One aspect that we haven't discussed much at all is neurodiversity, and we're joined by Vauhina Vara from Fast Company to do just that. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. It's great to get you back. So first of all, tell us a little bit about the term neurodiversity. What is that exactly?
Sure. So neurodiversity is a term that was coined about 20 years ago by somebody who was on the autism spectrum, and it's really taken off and become more widespread or widely known since then. What it means is it conveys the notion that people who think differently, including people who might have what we think of as brain disorders like autism, are not abnormal. They represent normal ways of thinking that are just outside of the mainstream, and that should be respected just the same way that gender diversity or racial diversity should be respected.
Sure. So you wrote an excellent piece on Fast Company. I definitely implore everyone that watches and listens to this show to definitely check it out and read up on it. One of the things specifically that you get into, I mean, it's kind of the basis for this around neurodiversity, is kind of the challenges that someone who, let's say, is on the autism spectrum faces when interviewing with, let's say, a technology company. They've got a lot of knowledge locked away, but maybe their social skills aren't kind of on par with translating that knowledge across. What exactly are some of those challenges that they face, let's say, in an interview scenario?
So oftentimes the challenges have more to do really with how people with autism might communicate than with the way they're really processing information. And so what might happen, for example, is that somebody with autism might be more likely to look at his hands when he's being asked interview questions, which out of context might seem rude or like it conveys poor social skills at the very least. But if you're interviewing this person and you know they have autism, and you as an interviewer have been trained to understand what it means to have autism, you'd recognize that this is just a feature of their autism and doesn't necessarily convey something negative about who this person is. Right. That's just one example.
Mm-hmm. So what, if any, are the laws about discriminating against someone in the workplace who has autism?
So autism is considered a disability, so it would sort of fall under the bucket of conditions that that companies are prohibited from discriminating against because they are disabilities. But that said, as you know, as with any kind of diversity, whether it's diversity in race or gender or other disabilities, there are plenty of ways that an employer might unintentionally discriminate or have unconscious biases against a candidate because he or she has autism. And that's really hard to quantify. You know, you can't, it would be hard for a potential candidate to sue an employer saying you discriminated against me in many cases, because in cases in which that discrimination was somehow unconscious or not overt.
Sure. So a large part of what you're talking about in the article has to do with Microsoft specifically as a company. You know, they're basically putting pieces into place to make a more hospitable environment, to basically get at that knowledge and break through kind of the social aspects that can keep, you know, people on the autistic spectrum out of a position like this, and really kind of understand the knowledge that they have. How does Microsoft tackle knowing, I guess, first and foremost, that they have an autistic candidate? I mean, is it lawful for them to ask? How do they know to put these pieces in place for them?
That's a good question. So what Microsoft has actually done with this particular program is it has essentially sent out a call for applications from people who are autistic explicitly. Okay. So there's a web page that you can go to if you're autistic and want to work at Microsoft. And so it's looking for applicants specifically who have autism, who are willing to disclose that they have autism. That's all fully legal. What becomes more interesting is that Microsoft is talking about wanting to scale this so that it's not just a sort of individual program, but that so that these practices are things that they take into account throughout the organization. And so that becomes more interesting because that means that they want to sort of be cognizant of neurodiversity issues and the facts of neurodiversity when they're interviewing candidates in general. So outside of this program, you're right, they wouldn't be able to ask a candidate, hey, do you have autism? In that case, I'm going to ask you this set of different questions. But just being aware that people think and communicate differently, I think, is meant to teach hiring managers that they should keep an open mind about the way people portray themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we talk about hiring for diversity, the argument always is, well, you know, we don't want to lower the bar. So tell me some of the strengths that people with autism have that they can bring to this workplace.
Absolutely. So I don't want to generalize, but what people at Microsoft told me is that they have found that many candidates that they have seen with autism tend to be detail-oriented, tend to be methodical, tend to be very conscientious, tend to not want to cut corners. Again, these are generalizations, but these are things that Microsoft and other companies that I've talked with have found in these candidates. And this is what some people with autism have told me about themselves. So yes, these are strengths, not weaknesses.
Mm-hmm. So I guess obviously Microsoft has put a lot of pieces into place. We haven't really talked at all about what they are doing differently in this process. How are they tackling this?
So let's say I'm a candidate with autism. What I do is I can apply to this program, this special Microsoft program, through a web page. If I seem to meet some basic qualifications, I'll generally get a phone screening in which somebody who's trained, who knows how to talk to people with candidates with autism, will call me up. We'll talk for a half hour. And this person in the HR office will know that, you know, if I'm stumbling over my words a little bit, or if it takes me a while to formulate my answer, that shouldn't be held against me. What they're really trying to figure out is, do I have the skills and am I in the professional readiness? Then I go into Microsoft for 2 weeks with about 15 other candidates. They're running this now several times a year. And basically they put you in a room. They put me in a room with all these other candidates, give us a project to work on together in small groups. And by doing that, they can sort of see how people work together and work individually without it being a sort of high stakes, high pressure situation where, you know, you're walking into a room with 10 managers and they're giving you a coding test to do on the spot. And then managers will come into this room over the course of a couple of weeks and just chat casually with the candidates, which again is a sort of lower pressure way to achieve the same goals on Microsoft's part, which is to learn who these people are, what their strengths are, what they're like as individuals, personality-wise, what their coding skills are like. And so essentially, to sum it up, and at the end of this process, there is a sort of more formal interview process. And then the Microsoft managers who are part of the program get together and decide who they want to give offers to. And so it's a way to kind of accomplish the same things in an interview process that the standard interview process accomplishes, but in a way that is better catered toward the way autistic people are going to communicate and think.
Sure.
I love how you really talk about how this isn't just for the people with autism. I mean, this is to make a more diverse workforce, to make Microsoft, the people creating these products, be more like the people that are using the products, and so it's
Absolutely.
a real advantage. Who is this coming from? Is it coming from Nadella? Like, who planned this program?
That's a good question. What really interested me about this program before I even started reporting on it is knowing that the CEO, Satya Nadella, has a couple of children with special needs. So it seems to me that he's particularly attuned to these kinds of issues. The two executives who spearheaded this effort, though, happen to have autistic children, which is very interesting because when I spoke to an organization that works with companies that are trying to create these kinds of programs, the representative of the organization told me, you know what, oftentimes when these programs get started at companies, it is because there's a parent who works at the company or is a high-level executive at the company who happens to have a child with autism and wants to see these programs exist and succeed. And so these two executives sort of took it upon themselves to create this little pilot program a year ago, a very scrappy little pilot program without many resources. And it was successful, and so it's been expanded and expanded again. They're still running it on a pretty small budget. It's a relatively small program when you compare it to Microsoft's spending overall. But because of the nature of the program, it's attracting a lot of attention among autistic adults who are interested in these kinds of jobs and is potentially very influential.
Yeah, I have to imagine also, hopefully, in like talking about scale, if Microsoft can prove that there's this is a system that works and that it does increase kind of the diversity inside the workplace, the perspective, that kind of light that's shown on all of their products, then that could hopefully be influential to other companies. Is there any kind of take up on this concept, on this approach outside of Microsoft right now?
The other big company to mention is SAP. SAP, another big software company, actually started doing this before Microsoft did. It has a pretty sizable program. Other companies are looking at hiring autistic people, but it's not a concept that has become widespread in Silicon Valley, I'd say. I'd say companies are still, they first started spending a lot of time looking at gender diversity. Now they're looking at racial diversity. And frankly, as you know, these are problems that haven't been solved in Silicon Valley. And so I think as companies kind of prioritize their where to spend their resources, they're looking at those areas, and this idea of neurodiversity hasn't caught on in a big way yet. Although I do hear that there are several big companies that are starting to take notice.
Excellent. Well, I definitely, those of you watching and listening, definitely recommend checking out the article, Vauhina Vara with fastcompany.com. And the subject, of course, Blake, who we didn't even mention during this interview. And basically the entire article is all about Blake, who seemed like an incredible individual. I know you spent a lot of time with him.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. I love one of the things he said, actually, just real quick before we go. He said that autistic people can, quote, drive towards something to the point of obsession. And when I read that, I was like, that's a quality that everybody wants to have in the workplace.
Right.
Like, that's a quality you want in your team. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Vauhina Vara with fastcompany.com. Thank you so much. You're at Vauhina Vara on Twitter as well?
That's right.
Excellent. All right. Have a great evening. We'll see you later.
Okay, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, Matthew Ivy tweeted about our discussion of the new Pinch and Zoom feature on Instagram. He said, Pinch and Zoom is on the Android Instagram beta. It's arrived. Yay.
It's arrived. I have
pinched?
not
Have you
opened
zoomed?
Instagram to know. Let's see here. Can I pinch to Zoom? You know what? I probably haven't even updated, to be honest. So I have to go in. And then, no, it's not working for me.
I didn't know if he was talking about the Instagram beta or a beta of Android. I'm not sure.
It's not working for me, but I probably haven't updated.
You know, but the
I've
funny
been camping.
I've been doing a lot of pinching, a lot of zooming, and it just shows you how little quality your Instagram photos really have.
Yeah, well, that was one of the questions I had because I never thought of I thought of my long-term thought of Instagram is that it's artful photos, but they're fixed resolution. So you're not going to want to hang these, like there were services around where you could print out your Instagram photos for your wall, but they didn't print them very large. Like they were really small printouts because the resolution isn't so high. So I imagine you see all the imperfections when you pinch and zoom with Instagram.
It's true, you do.
Yeah.
Well, after the break, why 21 years at Apple might not even get you a job as a genius in the Apple Store. You can find out why. But first, let's take a minute to thank Grasshopper, the sponsor of this episode. Grasshopper is a virtual phone system designed for entrepreneurs. Grasshopper works just like your traditional phone system, but you don't have to purchase any new hardware. Here's how it works. Install the app for iOS or Android or both. Then callers can reach you wherever you are on your mobile phone. Grasshopper allows you to keep your existing number so you can maintain your brand. When you make a call, your client will see your Grasshopper caller ID instead of your personal number. Simply select a toll-free or local number, record a custom greeting, and add multiple extensions for your business. Toll-free numbers are great for marketing and make your business sound more professional. Set up department and employee extensions with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world. Get voicemails emailed to you as audio attachments. You can also send and receive SMS text messages straight from your business number. Join the over 250,000 Grasshopper customers today. Plans start at just $12 a month. You have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so turn your smartphone into a business line with Grasshopper. To save $50 on your order, go to trygrasshopper.com/twit. That's trygrasshopper.com/twit. And we thank Grasshopper for their support of Tech News Today.
All right, TT's fan of the day is Andrew from Montreal. I used to live there for like 6 months, so I feel like maybe I have free reign to say it that way, although I'm very sorry for doing that. He watches us while chatting with the snarky British Siri. Andrew writes that he asked Siri what he was doing, and Siri responded, "You're watching TNT on Apple TV and you're not wearing your spectacles, therefore you are too close to the screen, Andrew." And Siri is very smart, or a smart beep. I'm not going to say that word. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup, post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag #HowIWatchTNT, and we're going to find it.
So this final story is in honor of the fact that Jason will officially be old on his birthday this Sunday. He's not old now. He will be old on Sunday.
Thanks.
This is his birthday, which he doesn't like to celebrate.
Yes, that's the line. It's like, yay, I'm not old. Nope, suddenly old.
No.
That's how it goes.
Over the weekend, the New York Times opinion pages profiled older workers like yourself. The news is not so good. Take the sad tale of J.K. Scheinberg, who worked for Apple for 21 years and has been credited with helping convince Steve Jobs to switch the Mac to Intel processors. Scheinberg retired from Apple in 2008 and decided that it might be fun to work at an Apple store. When he applied at the Genius Bar, he was told they would, quote, be in touch.
Oh, that's
and
a
they
hard
were
one
not
right
in
there.
touch.
Yeah.
Like, not right away anyway. So they didn't really turn him down, but like they didn't, they should have welcomed him with open arms. But, they think it might be because he's older.
I mean, did he have that on his resume? Did that ever come up?
I know, that was
at
my
some
question.
point?
I don't
Or
know. Maybe he did. Yeah.
maybe he approached it like, I don't want to go in there like, my stuff don't stink, so I'm just going to go in there as a normal person and see what happens.
Yeah.
And this is what happens.
Right.
This is what happens.
So I don't know how the hiring process works. Maybe they didn't look at resumes. It was just like he was in a group, but he just, Silicon Valley engineers are getting Botox and hair transplants before interviews.
But why? I don't understand. I read that and I was like, but why?
To look younger.
But they're already young, aren't they?
Well, older engineers.
Oh, okay. When I read that, I was like, wait a minute. I thought it was the younger ones. I was like, this whole bro culture is way out of line. I don't know what's
idea
going
what
on
it's
anymore.
like. You're not old yet, so you'll know.
I will know in a couple of days officially. I'm just going to suddenly know the answer to these questions. I don't know. Like, is it ageist for me to like blame the Silicon Valley bro culture that's going on right now for a lot of this stuff?
Like you're saying that, they're ageist. That's ageist of you to say they're ageist?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah, that is.
I may have, yes, that might have hurt your brain a little bit. It hurt my brain just saying it out loud, but I don't know. Like they've got their duty and they've also got their party. And no one wants their mom or their dad at the party, right? So then they don't, I don't know. Do you think there's truth to that? Or am I out on an island suddenly?
I don't know. Are we the
lonely
mom and
out
dad
here.
at this party? That's what it's
No, we aren't.
Okay.
We aren't, but in the eyes of bro culture,
Okay.
we very well might be. And I'm not saying that I am. I will be in a couple of days, though.
Yeah, right. In a couple
Suddenly
of
I'll be
days.
the dad on that island. Let's abandon ship quickly. TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. I know I've gone too far when Greg shakes his head at me. You can be a part of the show by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. You can leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW, and you can find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
Find all the ways to subscribe to our show. You can do it on iTunes. You can do it on Google Play Music. You can do it anywhere. It doesn't matter. Go to twit.tv/TNT. You can find all the apps and all the ways. I am at Megan Morrone on Twitter.
And I'm at Jason Howell on Twitter. Thanks to our technical director, Kara Cole. Thanks to Greg with the words. Thanks to Kevin for editing. I think he's going to edit our show today.
He'll need to.
Yeah. There will probably be a few points. I'm sorry, Kevin. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody. It's going to work. It's going to work.